What's the toughest defender you've played against in your life?
Van Dijk.
I think he is one of the very best in Premier League history. That goes without saying.
Was colossal, imperious. Oh, that's the word. That's the word, isn't it? Yeah. Well, in fact, colossal stroke imperious.
In football, attackers are the stars. They score goals, get the headlines, and enjoy the praise. But every great attacker has a nightmare, and for years that nightmare had a name: Virgil van Dijk. For 3 straight seasons, not a single player dribbled past him. Not Messi, not Neymar, not Aguero. At his peak, Van Dijk played 65 consecutive Premier League games at Anfield without losing. That's the longest unbeaten streak ever for a defender. That's not just dominance, that's invincibility. And in 2019, he finished second in the Ballon d'Or, ahead of one of football's greatest, Cristiano Ronaldo. A defender being ranked that high? Almost unheard of.
We had to make sure that we're not going to be in a situation.
The last defender to win the award was Fabio Cannavaro in 2006. And before that, you have to go back to Franz Beckenbauer in 1976. Numbers alone cannot tell a defender's worth. Van Dijk has it all. He is fast, hitting speeds of 34.5 km per hour like an Olympic sprinter. He is strong, winning 75% of duels against top strikers like Aguero and Kane. He is smart, rarely needing a tackle. As Paolo Maldini once said, "If I have to make a tackle, I've already made a mistake." And Van Dijk? He hardly ever had to tackle. But he wasn't just the ultimate defender, he was the missing piece to a great team. Liverpool had firepower, they had energy, but they were fragile. They needed a leader, they needed a rock, they needed Virgil van Dijk. Before he arrived, they played exciting football, but always fell short. After Van Dijk joined, they became untouchable, winning the Premier League, the Champions League, and almost every trophy there is. Liverpool's return to the top of world football had his fingerprints all over it. His peak was so absurd that some called him the best defender the Premier League has ever seen. Others, they went even further and said he was the greatest defender of all time.
I think he's the best centre-half of all time, yeah.
This is the story of the man who made the best players in the world look average. But how did a kid from the Dutch second division, a player no big club wanted, turn into the most feared defender of his generation? Not every world-class player was a wonder kid. Some, like Van Dijk, had to fight for every step. As a young boy in the Netherlands, he wasn't part of any elite academy. No scouts were lining up to sign him, and off the pitch, life was even tougher. His father abandoned the family. His mother worked tirelessly to provide for her kids. For young Van Dijk, sport was everything. His escape, his happiness.
I had a great childhood. You know, I was playing outside on the streets a lot. I have a little brother, I have a little sister as well. My brother is 2 years younger than me, and at that time, playing outside was, was it. Of the two of us, he was most of them the goalkeeper, so I just, tried to score some goals on him, and I was always trying to be active, playing different sports, whether it was sort of baseball kind of games or basketball, badminton. And then football, obviously, it was great. I was 2 years at the...
At 16, he wasn't even a starter for Willem II's youth team. Too slow, too weak, not technical enough. At least that's what his coaches thought. He took a part-time job as a dishwasher, believing he had no future in football. He was one step away from quitting football forever, but deep inside, he still believed. Then Groningen took a chance on him. Finally, he had a shot. But just as his career was gaining momentum, everything nearly fell apart. At 18, he suffered a near-career-ending stomach illness. Doctors feared he'd never play football again. He lost weight, he was hospitalized for weeks, and his career was on the edge of collapse. But Van Dijk refused to quit. He came back stronger, tougher, hungrier. For the first time, people noticed. And yet, the big Dutch clubs still ignored him. Ajax, PSV, Feyenoord, they all ignored him. So he left the Netherlands. Celtic took a gamble, and it changed everything. At Celtic, he developed into a rock-solid defender, won back-to-back league titles, and finally caught the attention of bigger clubs. But it wasn't until Southampton took a chance on him that the world truly saw his potential. In his first full season, Southampton finished 8th, their best ever finish. He played so well that he made the PFA Team of the Year. And then in 2018, everything changed. Liverpool made Virgil van Dijk the most expensive defender in history, 75 million euros. The world laughed. They called it a waste of money.
That much football in the last couple of years. And I think what we have here is another scenario where, in some sense, and this might sound a little crazy at 75 million sterling, is that the jury's going to be out a little bit until he puts the performances on the field. And I tell you why, because clearly there's been a lot of Southampton players going to Liverpool. One of them was Dejan Lovren, who was doing very well for Southampton. He goes to Liverpool, makes mistake after mistake. Celtic are a big club, but the standard of the league is not great. He comes to England, there's a bit of pressure at Southampton, not a lot. Does well, as Paul said. Now he goes into kind of the lion's den. Yeah. The focus, top end of the Premier League, Champions League, cup competitions is on you every week. Can you make that difference to the Liverpool team? Yeah. Are you the answer?
No,
Can you work with Joel Matip? That's why the jury's still out.
But they wouldn't be laughing for too long, because Van Dijk wasn't just good. He became the best. From an overlooked kid in the Dutch second division to the Ballon d'Or runner-up. But his rise wasn't just about skill. It was about how he made attackers doubt themselves. Most defenders live for tackles. The crowd loves it. A big challenge. A roar from the stands. It's what defenders are known for. But Virgil van Dijk never needed that. He's fast yet incredibly strong, utterly dominant in the air, and reads the game better than anyone. His presence alone makes attackers hesitate. Unlike traditional defenders who dive into challenges, he stays calm, anticipates movements, and forces forwards into making mistakes. Again and again, the world's best strikers found themselves powerless against him. Haaland, frustrated. Mbappe, out of options. Neymar, completely shut down. Defenders like Vidic and Terry thrived on aggression, but Van Dijk, he made defending look effortless. In the entire 2018-19 season, no player managed to dribble past him, a feat unheard of in modern football. He rarely conceded penalties, his timing and positioning were simply too good, and in his entire Liverpool career, never scored a single own goal. He has only received one red card, proving his discipline and defensive intelligence. And he's not just elite defensively, he's outstanding on the ball. For years, Liverpool's defense was impossible to press because of Van Dijk's pinpoint long passes. His diagonals broke defensive lines before opponents could react. Yet even the best faced challenges, and Van Dijk's journey to the top wasn't always smooth. At his peak, Van Dijk looked untouchable, but in football, even the strongest can fall. In October 2020, disaster struck. A reckless tackle from Jordan Pickford left Van Dijk with a torn ACL. He needed surgery, 9 months out. Many wondered if he'd ever be the same again. Defenders rely on strength, speed, and confidence. What if he lost all three? He had a choice, rush back or take his time. He made the harder decision. He skipped Euro 2020 to focus entirely on his recovery.
The rehab starts, and what I said, the first 3 weeks was horrible, pain, can't sleep.
And when he returned in 2021, he reminded the world of who he was. He helped Liverpool win the FA Cup and EFL Cup, and was named in the PFA Team of the Year. And in a season where Liverpool nearly won all 4 major trophies, he played almost every game. But football is ruthless. By 2022-23, something had changed. Liverpool struggled, and for the first time, Van Dijk did too. His unbeaten Anfield record in the Premier League, gone. After 70 games, his errors against Arsenal and Fulham cost Liverpool key points. And in the end, they missed out on a Champions League spot. Had age caught up with him? Was he still the best? But legends don't fade without a fight. Van Dijk worked his way back, proving doubters wrong once again. His leadership and performances in 2024 showed that while his peak may be behind him, his presence on the pitch is still unmatched. Every champion faces tough times, but true greats always bounce back, and Van Dijk is no exception. For years, Van Dijk was the rock of Liverpool's defense. Under Jurgen Klopp, he led a team that fought for every trophy. Liverpool went head-to-head with one of the greatest teams in Premier League history, Manchester City. And now, under new manager Arne Slot, Liverpool is rising to the top once again. Great defenders stop attackers. Great leaders transform entire teams. Before Van Dijk, Liverpool were exciting but unreliable. They lost the 2016 Europa League final. They lost the 2018 Champions League final. Both times, defensive mistakes cost them everything. Van Dijk changed that the moment he arrived. His presence alone made his teammates feel more confident. His positioning, composure, and leadership made Liverpool's defense rock solid. Take the 2019 Champions League final against Tottenham. Liverpool weren't at their best, but Van Dijk, flawless. Tottenham didn't manage a single clear shot on target on the night. He dominated the box, read the game perfectly, and ensured Liverpool lifted the trophy. He was named Man of the Match. This wasn't a one-time thing. Van Dijk has won 3 Man of the Match awards in major finals. His leadership turned Liverpool from nearly men into champions, even when people questioned his leadership qualities in 2024.
He's not clear. A good captain thinks aloud, makes it clear what's going on. He stays in between, he creates chaos. This is nothing to do with that injury. This has to do with leadership.
He silenced them the best way possible. That year, he captained Liverpool to an EFL Cup final win against Chelsea. He scored the winning goal. Man of the match again. Even rivals like William Saliba noticed his magic, saying, "Van Dijk has aura. He's the boss. He commands everything. You can feel he's scaring strikers away, and I'm starting to feel the same way." Today, Van Dijk isn't just one of the best defenders in the Premier League. He's in the conversation for the best defender the league has ever seen. The Premier League has seen legendary defenders: John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, Jaap Stam. Terry led Chelsea with power and passion, scoring the most goals for a defender in Premier League history, while Ferdinand combined pace, sharp positioning, and cool composure. Vidic was known as a destroyer on the pitch. And then there was Jaap Stam, a physically imposing defender with incredible speed and strength. Now, Van Dijk joins this group of legends, bringing a new style to defending. How does he compare to the greats? Take John Terry, for example, a master of old-school defending. He was a warrior, a leader who commanded his defense with authority, strong in the air, fearless in the tackle, and capable of scoring crucial headers. But while Terry was excellent on the ball, his lack of pace meant he relied more on defensive structure than recovery speed. However, some might argue that his passing was more refined than Van Dijk's. Then there's Rio Ferdinand, the Rolls-Royce of defenders, fast, elegant, and supremely intelligent. Ferdinand could snuff out danger before it even unfolded. He read the game at an elite level, rarely dived into tackles, and played with the same calmness Van Dijk is known for today. Yet, Ferdinand's longevity and Premier League titles far exceeded Van Dijk's, something that separates him from the Dutchman. Nemanja Vidic was a different breed, a pure warrior, a nightmare for strikers. Vidic thrived on aggression, aerial dominance, and last-ditch tackles. He wasn't afraid to throw his body on the line, battling forwards in a way few defenders ever could. While he was fearless, his aggressive style sometimes led to mistakes, something Van Dijk has already avoided through his calculated risk-free defending. And then there's Jaap Stam, Van Dijk's idol.
For me as a Dutchman, he was the man in the back. If you looked at the national team, I always thought he was going to be 2.5 meters, you know, like 6'5" or 6'6".
That was his presence, though, wasn't it?
It was his presence, yeah, his presence, and also his career in general has been outstanding. You know, his time at United, but also in Milan. He also played at Willem II, where I started my career. So yeah, I just have so much respect.
Stam was a physical specimen, fast, incredibly strong, and dominant in one-on-one duels. At Manchester United, Jaap Stam terrorized strikers with a blend of intelligence and brute force, commanding the defense with an intimidating, no-nonsense aggression similar to Van Dijk. Van Dijk mixes the best of both worlds, old-school physical dominance and modern tactical intelligence. He has Terry's leadership and dominance in the air. He has Ferdinand's intelligence and composure. He has Vidic's physicality, but without the reckless aggression. And he has Stam's commanding presence. but with even better ball control. Yet, what truly separates Van Dijk is his ability to thrive in the modern game. His ability to command a high defensive line under Klopp's pressing system is a game changer, thanks to his elite awareness and rapid decision making.
I didn't really have to think about a lot of things. I had to think about my striker and then me maybe getting the ball.
Easy job you got though.
Easy job, man.
Wow.
But 1v1 most of the time, but me against the striker, stop him, and then give it to the players that can play. How different is it for you now as a centre-back in today's game tactically? Because the systems and all of the information you guys are getting seems a lot more than what we had.
The responsibility that us centre-backs get in terms of possession and build up, because obviously everything is like step by step nowadays. Like the goalie gets the ball, we go to the centre half, you have to try and find the midfielders. If they're 1v1, you have to overplay the midfield and stuff, and it's nice. I kind of enjoy it because it gives you sort of that creativity in order to, you know, make the right decision. But you also have to then pay attention on what the opponent is doing. Obviously the first half against Ipswich, for example, they came guns blazing, 1v1, took all the risks that we...
His knack for being in the right place, whether intercepting a pass or winning an aerial duel, cement his status as one of the most complete centre-backs in the league. Van Dijk has collected numerous individual awards in England, earning more recognition and honours than many defenders of the past. Back then, winning individual trophies was nearly impossible for defenders. Players like Henry, Ronaldo, Rooney, and Gerrard dominated the spotlight. Van Dijk's success in today's game shows just how much the role of a defender has evolved. In short, Terry, Ferdinand, Vidic, Stam, each were legendary in their own way. But Van Dijk, he might just be the most complete defender the Premier League has ever seen. As the game evolves, his unique mix of skills may mean we will never see another defender quite like him. Football is changing. The era of physically dominant, elegant defenders is fading. Today, centre-backs are expected to be midfielders in disguise, focused on short passes, pressing high, and building from the back. But Van Dijk, he was something different, a mix of old-school dominance and modern elegance. At his best, he was untouchable. Defenders like him simply don't exist anymore. Van Dijk dominated the game like a gladiator, strong, fearless, and commanding. But off the pitch, he was the complete opposite. A quiet leader, humble and composed. He let his performances speak louder than his words. Despite leading Liverpool's defense, he built friendships across rivalries, even with Kevin De Bruyne, the leader of his biggest rival. But on the pitch, there were no favors, no smiles, only battle. He never let success change him. Even at the peak of his career, he spoke highly of Celtic, the club that gave him his first real chance.
To Celtic was a big one because I played for one of the biggest clubs in the world that no one really realized, in my opinion, you know, and I didn't realize as much before I joined, but when I joined, you know, it was unbelievable. Like playing Champions League first season, Barcelona, AC Milan, played against Ajax. The year after I played the Europa League, I won 2 league trophies, I won a cup trophy. So all these things, the experience, made me ready for the Premier League.
At a time when defenders were declining, he reached the very top without ego. Just hard work, discipline, and respect. And through it all, he stayed loyal. While some Liverpool stars clashed with Klopp at times, Van Dijk never did. Their bond was built on trust. Future defenders might win trophies, they might captain great teams, but a 6'4" giant with the speed, strength, calm, and leadership of Van Dijk, that's rare. Because Van Dijk lived for the game. Football was never about fame or ego for him. It was just about joy, passion, and earning respect the right way. Virgil van Dijk, the defender who made the world's best attackers feel powerless. From washing dishes to dominating the world's deadliest strikers, from rejection to rewriting history, Van Dijk isn't just a defender, he's a statesman, strong enough to bully the best, smart enough to outthink legends, calm enough to make chaos look effortless. He didn't just silence doubters, he made them believers. He didn't just improve Liverpool, he transformed them. From almost to unstoppable, the Ballon d'Or runner-up, the unbreakable wall, the leader who turned fear into mistakes. He is a Rolls Royce. He is a Colossus. He is one of one. He is undeniable. He is Virgil van Dijk.